One of the huge breakout successes inside of gaming, especially in terms of a very small developer. This has been massive. It's been gigantic. It's been mega.
This is insane. This game has done everything wrong, but it's still winning. In the middle of the busiest release schedule of 2025, we are talking about some of the heaviest hitters in both indie and in AAA. A little game called Megabonk comes out of nowhere and is sold so consistently and so regularly. It has so many players that are playing it that it is now directly competing with Borderlands 4 and Ghost of Yotei. We are talking about games that have spent likely hundreds of millions of dollars just on their marketing budgets versus a game that spent literally nothing, at least from,
$50
from my perspective.
Good video games will succeed if you give them even a little bit of exposure. Bad video games will fail even if you show them to the whole world.
This game's success is entirely organic. It's grass-fed. It's homegrown.
This is the same with media in general.
It was relatively unknown, only had a few devlogs on YouTube. It has now become one of the most talked about and played games this year, and it hasn't stopped yet. You know, if I was working at one of these AAA companies, if I was on their board of executives, I would have a lot of questions. Because while these guys keep talking about how prices need to go up on just about everything that they have,
isn't Megabonk like $10? They are. They're wasting their money. They're wasting their money on facial capture software. They're wasting their money on, well, look at the way the grass moves.
A solo developer, yet again, that made a game that's based off of memes in one of the most saturated genres in all of indie games, and he's making them look like fools. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the success of Megabonk, and how, against all odds, the game that did everything wrong is somehow actually doing everything right.
It's fun to play.
Why a game like this has continued to grow. And
I think that one of the big reasons why a lot of the games like Megabonk, Vampire Survivors, Halls of Torment to a lesser extent, Schedule 1, why these games are so successful is they have incredibly rewarding gameplay loops. That is the commonality between every single one of these breakout success small-term games. They have a very good gameplay loop, power fantasy, and a player growth, like basically system. That's how it works.
But before that, this video is sponsored by Boot.dev, the best way, and honestly the fastest way, that I've found to be able to learn back-end development without getting bored or giving up halfway through. One of the things I find so fascinating about these indie success stories is how almost none of them are ever alike. Sure, they might share a genre, a theme, maybe a budget, but they almost never share the exact same set of conditions that make them blow up.
I think that they do. I think that every single one of these games has a very defined, replayable gameplay loop that makes your character increasingly more powerful, that changes the way that you play the game, and they are rewarding at a very high ratio. Like in Schedule 1, you are getting reinforced and rewards all of the time. In Megabonk, you are getting reinforced and rewards all of the time. Vampire Stars all of the time. They are high ratio dopamine games that have a very good power structure, that have a very fast growth pattern, and they don't like kind of level off until way later on. And also another thing, somebody else brought this up too, they run on almost any PC. And this is another very big component, is that, you know, a lot of the people that are playing these games might not have access to like a really good gaming PC. They might only have a Steam Deck or like a, you know, a phone. And so like anybody can play Schedule 1 and the game plays well. Anybody can play, you know, fucking, what do you call it? The new Megabonk and the game plays well. Not everybody can play Ghost of Yotei and the game plays well. Or at least whenever it comes out on PC, they won't be able to. PS5, it's pretty binary, right? But you're uniform, I guess you could say. But, you know, with a lot of the other games, it's varying.
Passed around because it had its free demo, a absurdly long offering of over 80 hours of gameplay just in the demo alone, and the only reason people found it was because they started pushing it on streamers like Queso. Pal World was an incredibly fun game on its own, but its over-the-top tone and its controversy with Nintendo turned what could have been an obscure indie curiosity into one of the most talked-about releases in the past 5 years. Balatro, Expedition 33. We can continue to go down the list, and it's going to be the same. In almost every single one of these cases, there was some strange hook, some defining trait that that help these games to rise above the rest and make traditional marketing feel entirely pointless.
Do you see my point about how every single one of the games that he's given an example of and I've given an example of have extremely fast reward structures? They are constantly rewarding all of the time at an extremely high interval.
These games didn't succeed despite the system. They succeeded outside of the system, reaching heights that some of the most expensive AAA releases in recent years can't even touch, even after spending hundreds of millions of dollars trying to buy the exact same attention. Which brings us to the latest success, and honestly one of the weirdest ones yet, Megabonk, developed by a solo dev going under the name Vetadad. For whatever reason, if you guys haven't heard of this game, it's a survivor-like that's built off the exact same formula that was popularized by Vampire Survivors, a genre that has completely flooded the indie space at this point. We're way past the point of saturation here. Every theme, every IP, every niche seems to have one of these games right now. There's Hollow Cure with its VTuber cast, Deep Rock Galactic Survivor, Heretical, which is essentially Diablo as a survivor, Halls of Torment, 20 Minutes Till Dawn. The list doesn't just end. So when I say that a game
even like Riot made one of these, remember? League Swarm? I played
shouldn't have succeeded, I mean it, because there are just so many of them out there. And while a lot of these games do just fine, true breakout success is an entirely different story when a genre is this crowded, but Megabonk did it. As of recording this video, Megabonk hit a peak of over 117,000 concurrent players on Steam, but it didn't start there. It launched at barely 3,000 players. It doubled that number the next day, then it climbed another 5,000 and 10,000 almost every single day until it broke 100,000 players. That kind of steady day-by-day growth almost never happens.
Well, it does. It happens with good games. It doesn't happen with bad games, but it does happen with good games. Another thing about this game, and like the same as like Schedule 1, is that you're not locked into gameplay for a long period of time. Like a Megabonk session is at most probably 30 minutes, realistically, unless you're going for like a really high score and you've already put in like probably 30 hours into the game. So like these are very fast games that you can play for like 10 or 30 minutes and then you're done.
How this game actually reached those players, it starts to make perfect sense.
Yeah.
The first thing, and probably the most obvious, is the price. Yet another game that's sitting at about $10 or less, making it easy entry point for anyone. It doesn't feel like a commitment. It's cheaper. And with it being on Steam, if you don't like it, you can just refund it.
Yeah.
Nothing here is making you feel like you're locked in. You're not married to the game, something that we cannot say for a majority of the games that have released recently. Now, on top of that, during its launch week, the developer put it on sale for $8. Imagine that. It's actually something that I've seen more and more indie games start to do lately, and it's incredibly smart. It gives people a reason to take a chance right away. Why do they want to buy today? That's a question that some of these developers need to be asking themselves, especially right now when we are in the middle of a huge flood of releases, most of them $70 games with hardware prices that are skyrocketing around them. People do not have a lot of extra cash that's sitting around right now.
It's not even that people don't have a lot of cash. I think that another really big thing is that, like, I mean, look at Battlefield 6, for example. Battlefield 6 is like, isn't it like a $60 or $70 game? That's a lot of money, isn't it? But everybody's buying the game. Why is that? It's because the game's good and people like it. So really, I don't think that the 70, that's even more than 60. Either way, the game is definitely expensive, right? But a lot of people bought it. It had like a player base of like over 600,000-700,000 players. It was a huge amount. And so the point that I'm making with this is that I think that price matters, but price is not a defining factor for success unless a game is vastly outpriced inside of its genre, right? Like a Metroidvania priced at $60 is going to fail, like the Prince of Persia game did, for example. But in a general sense, I think that really it's not that people don't have any money. That's also a factor, but people will find the money, like they did with Battlefield 6, if the game is worth it.
Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I think Megabonk is some revolutionary leap for the survivor genre. I've been playing it. I've definitely been addicted to it. But what I think really sets this game apart is that it's fully 3D and it heavily leans into mechanics that have been ripped straight out of Risk of Rain 2, which I love, by the way, because it's a game that I have over 1,000 hours into. And, well, that also makes me realize just how dangerous it is for me to be playing a game like this. But movement and positioning play a massive role in the game. You got to think about how you're traversing the map and how your abilities work. The game heavily leans into meme culture with characters and items games. Name things like Mega Chad, Burgor, and a tree boss named Bark Vader. The game is just really lighthearted, absurd, and fun. And honestly, that's what sold me on the game, because there's just so many full games out right now that require 70 hours of progression even to feel like you just even started the game. Yeah. They take themselves so seriously, and guys, I'm just kind of tired of it at this point. I just want something I can jump in and jump out of. I don't feel like I need to make time for it. I feel refreshed after playing it. I don't need to memorize controls or mechanics.
This is the case too, is that I think that as gaming is becoming more of a, like, gamers will always trend younger, but I think that gaming, like the age of gaming, has been going up like this, right? I don't know when it's going to plateau, but I think that, like, you know, a lot of the guys, like, let's say the average age of a gamer, like, you know, 20 years ago was like 23, right? Well, now, like, let's say it's 33. And so, because a lot of those guys that are 23 now, or 23 then, now they're 43 and they're, you know, averaging it out. And so I think that really, like, a lot of gamers will just simply get older. And as gamers get older, these more short form experiences, I think, are going to be increasingly more valuable. And I think this short form experience is becoming more valuable is because people don't necessarily, like, I have a lot of friends, like, they can't lock into playing a video game for like an hour because, you know, their kid might need something, or they might have a call that they need to make, or some other reason why they can't do it. And because of that, you know, any game that requires that type of gameplay is just simply not, it's not there. And there's also, like, what he's saying too about this, like, I hate to pause this many times, but I feel like I have to, is that he's absolutely right, is that a lot of people have jobs that are complex. They don't want to go home and have 8 different levels of complexity added into a video game that really don't make the game better. And I think this is a big problem that I think video games are having now, is that a lot of video games add in complexity in ways that don't improve the experience. Sometimes simpler is better.
Games like this, so great because you can just learn by feeling. And game feel is something that's just entirely lost on this industry right now. Hell, I largely don't even need to think while I'm playing this game, but that doesn't mean
that's a requirement
that the game
for
can't get serious. Mechanically, the game is incredibly simple, but you got to make sure that you have a solid build by the time you reach each stage's final boss. Otherwise, you're just going to get hammered. You got to have the movement nailed down. You got to have multiple layers of protection stacked up. Otherwise, you're just going to get one shot by the final boss. It's the kind of game where every single choice matters, and that gives it a very different flavor of challenge from a lot of other games in this genre. And the music, that's another thing too. Dude, the music in this game has no business going this hard. It is way too good. It is so easy to find myself just trapped in a trance, disassociating and looking up and seeing that hours have gone by.
Yeah, usually whenever I look up, it's that I'm dead. But yeah, sure.
But none of those things are why this game actually reached players. That's the foundation. That's the stuff that made it all possible. But what really pushed this game into the spotlight was something entirely different. See, Megabonk didn't have any traditional marketing. What it did have was a developer that was uploading their devlogs to YouTube. Actually, scratch that. There was only one devlog and a handful of YouTube shorts that completely outperformed that long-form video. These shorts were brilliant. High-colored thumbnails, bubble text pulled straight from tweets and YouTube comments, meta humor showing players asking for new mechanics and characters, and the developer showing that they were actually making it for them. Later ones started showing these players beating the developer's high score in the demo, and there were other ones that were showing people breaking the game entirely with busted builds. And then there's also this mystery behind the entire thing. A lot of people believe this game was made by Danny Dev, a YouTuber that vanished about 3 years ago. The developer's name, Venedad, is literally Danny Dev spelled backwards, and the thumbnails and the editing style are almost identical to his. Whether it's actually him returning under a new name or it's somebody that just studied his playbook, it worked.
That would be really cool.
The exact same mix of humor, creativity, and accessibility that made Danny Dev's channel blow up in the first place. And while I've been watching this entire thing, I realized what was actually happening. This, my friends, is pure, unfiltered social media marketing genius, and I love it.
Yeah.
Take a minute to think about it. Those videos that are suggesting features, and then he shows that he put those features in, they invite more people to comment with their own ideas, which then boosts engagement and feeds the algorithm. The videos that are showing the leaderboards and the broken builds, that's encouraging more players to share their own footage in hopes that the developer might feature them next. It's a self-sustaining loop of curiosity and recognition. The audience is shaping the game, the developer is shaping the content, and the cycle just keeps feeding itself. They made a game for the players, and now those players are marketing that game, which means the next step was only a matter of time.
Yeah, this is very smart to do. You should always do this. Like, a lot of devs are starting to realize this, but, you know, larger studios, I think that by the time that they do it, it's going to be so fucking cringe. You're just, like, you don't even want to know what it is.
Nearly every major streamer on YouTube and Twitch have been playing Megabonk, and all these guys have been addicted to it. I only found out about the game because somebody popped into my live chat
even I
and asked me if I had tried the game yet. I said that I hadn't heard about it, and they said that they had found it through those same YouTube shorts and brought it to their favorite content creator, and that's exactly how it spread.
Yep.
The same thing happened with Queso, Moist Critical, Shroud, Quinn69, and eventually
something that's worth mentioning is Megabonk just feels like a game. Yeah. Like, there's a lot of video games now. This is something that's weird. I don't know if you guys kind of get the same vibe that I do, but, like, a lot of video games don't feel like games anymore. They feel like bullshit. Like, it's just bullshit. Like, oh, there's a fucking mini game to do something stupid. Or, oh, well, there's this story, like your shitty fucking story. Like, I don't want to hear about your shitty fucking story. Like, most video game stories are garbage. They're trash. They suck. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to read it. I don't want to see a cinematic. Just take me to the next fucking boss fight. Yeah, Expedition 33, mouth-washing. I can come up with some good ones, but I can also come up with a whole lot of bad ones. They're forgettable? Yeah, they're just mediocre. What are we even doing? Man.
Once those streamers got into their hands, visibility hit critical mass. Each new creator that picked up the game brought in more players, and the numbers just kept climbing from there. And now this loops us all the way back to gameplay, because remember what I said earlier, it's the foundation, not the catalyst. Megabonk has insane replayability. Each level is broken up into 3 different areas. Those 3 areas have 3 difficulty tiers: challenges, quests, unlockable items, characters, weapons, tomes, skins, maps, secrets. It's stacked with a ton of different content. Combine that with how fun the game is.
I think also giving people like a checklist of things to do. The reason why the checklists work in some games and not other games is that they feel good to accomplish. And, like, I don't know, like, this is going to be like a very, very narrow World of Warcraft example. But in World of Warcraft, there used to be, like, achievements for every raid, where it was, like, in Ulduar, for example, okay, well, you have to kill, there's, like, a big guy and a little guy, and the big guy is really hard, and there's the little guy that's easier. And so, like, there's an achievement where it's like you have to kill the little guy first and the big guy second, because, you know, usually you'd do it the opposite way, right? Like, just theoretically. And so, like, there were all these, like, different achievements that were for playing the boss and doing the boss differently. And achievements in the game in general were always something that was unique, right? Where it was like, okay, well, you know, go and fight this boss with, like, this, you know, restriction or something like that. But then as time went on, achievements became more like do 2,000 pet battles, do 10,000 daily quests. And achievements became just like these weird, just like very, very long form, like tally boards for like how much of my life have I been wasting. And that was one of the reasons why I kind of like lost interest with like farming and doing a lot of achievements, because they just became effectively participation rewards. They were no longer interesting. There was no longer like a strategy that you would have other than how can I just repeat the same activity over and over. And I think that a lot of video games, like they basically, they create content by just adding a 0 next to whatever your goal is, right? So instead of getting one of these things, you have to get 10 of them. Instead of getting 10 of them, you have to get 100. You're playing a gacha game. Instead of getting 100, now you've got to get 1,000. And that doesn't really improve the game. It doesn't really make the game any better. Just because you make something take longer to get doesn't make it feel any better or worse. Like a great example of this is like in Metaphor Refantasio. So you can fight a dragon like right after you beat like one of the earliest like kind of challenging bosses, right? And you can choose to fight this dragon or not. And if you kill the dragon, you immediately get a weapon that turns your attacks into fire damage, and it's a very, very good sword. It'll be a good sword for a long period of time in the game. And you don't need to like farm for this. You don't need to like spend a lot of time doing this. You just have to beat the dragon and get the item. And I think that there's a lot of people that, you know, like a lot of the Megabonk rewards, for example, like each of the different goals that you have to have, they're not ridiculous goals. They're just like, okay, kill 1,500 mobs or 15,000 mobs, which in this game is super fast. So they're not these like super hyper long form achievements and goals that just waste your time arbitrarily. And I think that's one of the big issues that developers have, is that they see players like checklists, and so they add checklists, but they don't understand like the psychology behind it. They only understand the thing itself. It's like a great example is that, have you ever played a video game and you loot like a little knickknack and it says 1 of 574? And you're like...
So as visibility grew, the new players weren't dropping in and leaving. They were staying. They were playing daily, sharing clips, streaming it, and that created this cycle of growth that just built upon itself.
Yeah,
a
little
perfect
bit,
storm
right?
of fun gameplay, streamer exposure, and social media momentum. Something that the rest of this industry desperately needs to learn from, but they likely won't. Out of the huge slate of AAA games and just games in general that we've seen release over the past couple of months, I have played Borderlands 4, Hades 2, and Silksong. And after playing Borderlands 4, I felt like I needed to take a week-long break before I even tried to dip a toe into playing Dying Light 2. And while there are AAA games that I like, right now I'm in the mode of I've seen it, I've been there, I've done that. I've heard this story before, and there is just so much time commitment and so much time between when I can actually get to the content, the heart of the actual experience, that it just makes me go, no. I'm just really not that into it. I want a digestible game. And Megabonk, that's a digestible game.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are looking for something that's simplistic and easy to understand. Oh, and like really, you go back and you look at a lot of the old arcade video games, they're very simple and easy to understand. Like, you know, fucking any of them are simple.
I think it's not that there's too much or too little content with some of these games. I think it's the speed and the frequency in which you can actually reach the content and how quickly you can actually enjoy it.
Exactly.
That's how you keep people playing your games. That's how you keep people talking about your games. You know, this entire first week that I've seen of Ghost of Yotei being up and around, a lot of people are just sharing how pretty the game is. And while you can definitely sell copies based on how pretty something is, especially in the case of Ghost of Yotei,
who cares?
A lot of people are waiting on the content. And the longer it takes to get to the content, the less interested people are going to be in the game. The less it's going to be a part of the discussion. And that's exactly how you lose momentum.
Yeah, that's the main thing, is that, like, really, I mean, the way the game looks is nice, but it doesn't really make a big difference. I don't think it would really matter.
The marketing for this game is just genius. That's all it is. This developer knew exactly what they were doing. The minute they saw those YouTube shorts take off, they abandoned the long-form videos. They focused directly on that. They answered player feedback directly. They implemented their changes into the game. So when the players finally got their hands on the game, they got exactly what they had asked for. And people love to talk about getting exactly what they want. That's like 90% of social media today. It's people that are
complaining about not getting
exactly what they want, or being mad that they aren't getting what they want. If you tap into that, you're going to find success.
He's very right about this. I think
that's the best part of it, because when a game pops off like this, the players aren't just playing it. They're sharing it. They're clipping it.
Exactly. Yeah. If you have a game, like, for example, like, there's been a number of games I've told my friends, they're like, what game should I play? Like, right now, like, what would I recommend? Expedition 33. If you haven't played that one, you should play that one. That's the game. And if you want a cheap game, something like Megabonk, that's it.
That's not marketing. That is just organic momentum. That is
Digimon,
interest, real interest, and that's something that you just can't buy, and that's something that
Power
AAA
was another one.
Keeps trying to do.
Marvel Rivals.
One of the things that I think really helps sell these recent indie successes is the genuine desire to be a part of something that is real. Players want to be in on it early. They want to be the first ones to find out about the next hit surprise before anybody else does. Something patently authentic about that experience, almost nostalgic, like the days of midnight launches or meeting friends in line while you're waiting for a game that you're all excited about. It's the same feeling of shared discovery, of genuine excitement, and it's something that you cannot manufacture, though many of publishers are trying to do so right now. Something that is not necessarily new but feels more blatant than ever is how inauthentic the excitement around certain games have become. Take the upcoming Call of Duty Black Ops 7. The hype behind this game feels entirely forced.
It's awful. And the reason why, like, another good example is like Blue Protocol. Like, they paid so many streamers to play this game. It's not going to matter, guys. You should have fixed the game. That's what you should have done. Like, you can't manufacture excitement like this. It just doesn't work.
Especially from content creators and the marketing itself. And I'm not talking about paid sponsorships or brand deals or even talking money under the table. I'm just talking about being performative. I mean, how is anybody supposed to take any of this enthusiasm seriously when we're talking about a series that has spent years now eroding player trust? This franchise has been slop farming its audience for over a decade. The trailer has over 500,000 dislikes on...
Oh my God. I never even saw this. This is awful. It's that bad? Holy shit.
Yet we have content creators and Activision that are both trying to desperately convince everybody that this is somehow the best Call of Duty ever. Everywhere I look right now, I'm seeing videos and posts that are trying to convince players that Battlefield 6 won't last, that Call of Duty deserves another chance, that this one will finally be different, guys.
Oh, man. That sure reminds me of something.
But what we're seeing here is fear. It's a collision of circumstances where longtime creators who have built their platforms around this series need it to be able to stay relevant, while Activision is genuinely threatened by real competition. Black Ops 6 is at its lowest player count for a decade. Reports are saying that Microsoft lost $300 million putting the game on Game Pass.
This is also one thing that I think is true. It's always really funny for me to see this about like content creators for certain games that are so afraid of their game dying, they'll lie to their audience about it being good. Like, I think WoW streamers have this for sure, because like a lot of these WoW content creators are just the most boring, like just voids of charisma that you could ever imagine. Like, nobody would want to watch them play anything else. And that's why, you know, if they have like, let's say 300 viewers playing WoW, they'll play something else and they'll go down to like 23. And so it's because they're boring. They're boring people with no personality, and they're not interesting other than the fact that they play a video game kind of well. And so a lot of them, like, this is their job. They're not going to pretend like their job is falling apart and, you know, this or anything like that. For example, I mean, I don't need to come up with examples. I think that you'd be better off coming up with exceptions. That'd be easier to do.
Both sides of this are trying to cling to the exact same sinking ship, each one pretending like it's still, and they are hoping that you will start rowing. The result has been this strange corporate hollow atmosphere, one that's probably going to do a lot more harm than good. The harder they push this forced enthusiasm, the more it's going to just drive players away. And when you're releasing a new Call of Duty every single year, it's not an event anymore. It's just a transaction, a routine, and no amount of empty excitement is ever going to change that. And what I think
in a general sense, unless you have developers that are like really well known, like Kojima or like a handful of other people that everybody knows, it's better to just not have the developers on camera talking about the game. Unless the guy is entertaining or something like that, don't just show the game. Just show the game, get to the game.
I mean, Activision and Microsoft are burning hundreds of millions of dollars trying to fake excitement. Megabonk did it all for free. People actually cared. People wanted to talk about it because they actually wanted. Streamers played it because they were genuinely curious about it.
Well, here's another thing too, is that streamers also played it because people wanted to watch it. Like, so here's a good parallel, right? Is like Undertale or what's the new one? Deltarune. Deltarune was also really, really successful, and it didn't have a tremendous amount of like streamer marketing, at least. I'm sure it had YouTube videos that came out, but with streamers, there weren't really that many streamers playing it because it doesn't lend itself to that type of a stream environment, right? I played the game, and so, you know, that was it. But, you know, you don't really need that. But the game has to be good and fun to play.
Megabonk feels like a game that was made for its community, not a product that was being sold at them. It wasn't designed to dominate engagement metrics or check off corporate KPIs. It was just fun, and that's enough to make people want to share it. AAA can spend all the money in the world, but if the players don't believe in what they're selling, well, it's just noise. And I don't think these guys have realized it yet. The constant releases, the endless sequels, the recycled franchises.
Well, I think that they have realized it. It's just that they're so rotted out by their own, like, just garbage games that they can't do anything about it. Like, I think that they do know that they're cooked, but they know that they can't uncook themselves. You can't unmicrowave a pizza.
They have no motion.
They're microwaved.
It ties back to that been there, done that fatigue I mentioned earlier. We have seen these games before, and they're running out of tricks to be able to play to keep us interested. Hell, now more than ever, they don't even entice us with anything new. The only thing they have left is to sell is nostalgia. Half of the excitement around these games anymore is the faint hope that the series might return to form or listen to player feedback. Those phrases by now have already lost all meaning. Players' expectations are so low right now.
Please, no.
Borderline apathetic. And that's exactly why these indie hits are so big, and that's why they're thriving right now, because for once, we don't know what we're getting. Expectations. Now, there's a conversation we should probably be having, because I don't know if you guys have noticed it, but as somebody who follows nearly every major release every single year, whether that's just tracking the news, the reception, or actually playing these games, one of the biggest factors that I've seen in a game's success has almost always come down to expectations. And more times than not, it is the price that is setting it.
True, too. Yeah, Megabonk being a piece of shit doesn't feel so bad if it's $10. You buy a game for $5, it sucks. It's like, God damn it. All right, what's the next one? But you drop $60. You buy the deluxe edition. It's $85. And the game can't even run on your PC because it's not optimized. You're going to be very upset.
But how quickly you can access it, I think it's the exact same logic that's applying to quality, or at least how we perceive it before we actually even touch a game. Price is shaping that perception.
I don't think that price will be price is not a barrier to entry for a high-quality game. But there are a lot of mid-quality games that are cosplaying as high-quality games. And that's where the price problem comes in.
How do you get people celebrating a game like Megabonk? Easy. They spend $8 to $10 on a game, and they get something that massively over-delivers. It was deeper, more competent, and way more fun than anyone expected for a game that looks like it costs $8. It's a surprise, a pleasant one, and it makes players feel like they've been given something, not sold something. You can feel the developer's appreciation baked into it.
Yeah,
the directive there was to make money, sure, but not at the expense of the player's experience. When I think back to a game like Expedition 33, that's another one that released at $50, and it punched way above its weight.
Can you believe this game was $50? Like, I'm sorry, but like after this game came out, I really think this game has done irreparable damage to the AAA gaming industry. And I don't even think that they realize it yet. I don't think they even have any idea how much damage it's done to the gaming industry.
I don't really care about the vernacular here, indie, AA. Expedition 33 was a AAA experience, or at least what we should actually be expecting for AAA games to actually be. Something mind-blowing, something you remember, something you want to come back to over and over again.
No, it wasn't. Like, this game made AAA games look like they're, like, indie games. It really, it was insane to me. It's like, I felt the same way playing, like, Elden Ring and playing, like, 2 or 3 other games where it was just, like, this game was just so far and away better than anything else that it just made everything else look like garbage. Like, you go back, like, after you play a game like this and you go and you watch, like, Ghosts of Yotai, it just looks like garbage. I'm sorry. It does.
And when you play a game like that, it feels like you've been gifted something by the developer. That $50 investment doesn't just feel worth it. It feels like you stole the damn game. And I think that games like that come from a mindset where the price isn't even on the developer's radar. That focus is just on the experience, and that sincerity then transfers directly into the player. Hell, they just announced that they're going to have a new free DLC celebrating selling 5 million copies with entirely new dungeons, bosses, enemies, and costumes. Again, money was never the priority. The customer and their experience were.
Well, it matters a lot because they're going to make another game too. And when the new game comes out, let's say the new game has performance issues when it comes out. Let's say that happens. Are people going to mauled out and freak out and get super angry? No. No, they won't. The same as they didn't whenever Final Fantasy Endwalker had problems. Because the trust has been built with the developer. That's the big difference.
Now we turn our eyes to AAA. $70 sets an insanely high bar that most of these companies will never reach. And honestly, regardless of the economy, I don't even think games should cost that much to begin with. That price tag creates a cycle of expectations. You sell me a good $70 game one year, now you got to do it again the next year. Only bigger, flashier, and somehow better. The problem is most of these studios are completely out of ideas. they've lost the talent that actually helped them earn that first $70. So now they have to compensate with graphics, higher fidelity, bigger worlds, higher budgets, all to make the game look like it was worth my money when it clearly isn't. You know what? At this point, I would argue that that $70 price tag has actually flipped our expectations. Nobody believes in it anymore. Our expectations for a $70
The more expensive a game is, the worse it's going to be. I like that.
game aren't sky high. They're buried in the dirt. We know exactly what we're buying. A game that has put a premium on its expense, not on our experience. We expect something safe, something recycled, something loaded with microtransactions and pre-order bonuses. We expect it to be rushed, buggy, unfinished, because cutting QA saves them money, and the players will end up doing that job anyway. Worse, on top of that, going to be the ones that are going to be paying for the fixes later.
Well, and then they do the job, but it never even gets changed.
A really interesting discussion that I saw recently were players that were talking about the Game Pass price hikes and how they were totaling up all of their expenses so far as how many games they actually played and how many games they actually purchased in a year. And they came to the conclusion that the service wasn't worth it for them anymore. $5 here, $10 there. They're mostly buying indie games anymore. $360. That's not what they're spending every year on video games. And when I see that and I hear people talking about that, it makes me think that more and more people are being drawn in by the price of some of these games rather than anything else. And
it's a lower barrier to entry. That's why games like Wuthering Waves, Genshin Impact, a lot of these like free-to-play games, even Blue Protocol, right? I mean, Blue Protocol, I think it's going to be a flop-a-rooski, but, you know, if you look at it in the short term, it's still right here. Take a look at this. You know, it's still performing relatively well. Like, and it retained, it almost hit 100,000 players, right? That's really, really good. That's insanely good. And so, like, really, and why is that? It's because the shit's free. And so, how do people feel about the game? Sucks dick. Doesn't matter. People play it because it's free. They try it out.
Here is
weebs are desperate.
That price tag is inviting them in, but the game itself is exceeding far beyond their expectations. And I would actually argue that even if you go and you watch some of the reviews for some of these games, or even go watch a streamer play some of these games, they're still going to deliver an experience that you don't expect. For me, with Megabonk, it was how the game actually feels to play, the mechanical depth of how it feels to play. It's learning how momentum works and sliding around.
Yeah,
and how
I don't even
be
do
able
that.
To position yourself and position
Just
your character properly, to be able to use your weapons effectively, balancing your tomes and weapons and what kind of build that you're going to use, what kind of character you're going to use, like using banana and trying to maintain a straight line to maximize its damage.
The double hit,
That's not the kind of mechanical depth that I had expected from a game like this, but I got it, and it made me more hooked on it.
Well, I think that good video games are a lot like good movies and other types of good art, is that inside of a great game, there will be multiple layers of high quality gameplay, and people will discover quality within the game that was serendipitous. It was accidental, but beneficial at the same time. I think a really great example of this is Super Smash Bros. Melee. Think about all the new ways people have invented and found to play that game that were not necessarily intended. Super Mario 64 is kind of another example. But in the same way that good games are an onion that just gets tastier, bad games are like a piece of shit that just gets even more disgusting. And so whenever you're playing a bad game like Assassin's Creed Shadows or, you know, something else that's just garbage, the more that you play the game, the more that you'll realize that the game is terrible. And that's it.
That's what's driving a lot of these games to wild success. And you just don't see that in AAA games anymore because we know what to expect from them. And these companies need us to know what to expect from them because that's why they're called a safe option for these guys.
Of course.
Oh, it's a third-person sword guy action game. Oh, it's
I'll
Dark
play that
Souls.
one.
It's literally It's literally Dark Souls.
That's it.
And while I like Dark Souls, I still want something new. I still want something fresh. I still want something different. And I still want you to try to exceed my expectations. And if you don't,
you're going to have a bad time.
It just makes me feel like I'm playing the same game over and over and over again. And while that can be fun for a while, it's not fun for very long, especially when you're spending this kind of money.
A lot of these like open world games have like the same gameplay loop where you go into an area and there's like some quests that direct gameplay, and then you have different points of interest that you go to and you clear all of the points of interest and then you go to the next area. Like, they all kind of function the same way. And I think that, like, very rarely do you have any of them that have, like, a lot of, like, very high variance. And I think it just makes them boring. Open world games suck. I don't think they suck. I just think that in general, once you've played a few of them, like, it's like gacha games. Like, I can see a gacha game that's in all Chinese. I know everything about it. It's like,
I totally think Megabonk was made by Danny Dev. I totally think.
Oh, we talk about Pokemon.
It's way too much of a coincidence, obviously, with the name and also with the way that they made a lot of their content. I could totally see this being as one of those 0 to hero. I made a game without using my name or recognition or my channel to see if it could actually become popular on its own, and it worked. You know, one of those kind of things. You've seen content creators do that kind of stuff with, like, YouTube channels and Twitch streams and stuff. Like, I tried to start all the way over, and this is how it happened. But it could just be somebody that's just insanely inspired by the guy, and if that's the case, that's pretty sick. I'll be honest with you. I will tell you right now, if you're an indie dev, I highly recommend that you pay attention to everything that happened with this game and how they continue to perpetuate the interest around it. You still have to have a good game first. I'm not saying that's not a part of the equation. That is the baseline. That is the expectation that most of us are going to have. Have a good game, but if you pay attention to how this developer had marketed the game, I'm going to tell you right now, it was an easy time.
It was a brilliant, genius marketing campaign. This is what I was saying before about how, like, you bring in a bunch of these people that have, like, marketing degrees. They've you know, interned at the right place. Nope. Give me one autistic 19-year-old that has spent the last 10 years scamming people in a video game. He's gonna outperform your entire department. It's not even going to be close. A lot of and this is what I think is a big problem, this is like a meta level problem, is you have a lot of these kind of like approval mechanisms. Like, you have a degree, you did an internship here. And I think these approval mechanisms have been gamed, and they've been nerfed in a way that they've become so accessible that they no longer serve their purpose. If everybody that goes to college can get a degree in something, then the degree doesn't usually matter because there's no distinction of talent or skill of people that are able to do this. So whenever you have a success rate of like 95%, you're probably not going to have a competency rate of 95%. So what I've always based things off of is that I almost, and this might sound crazy, but whenever I hear a person has a lot of industry experience or a person has like a lot of, like, you know, traditional experience, I assume that they're going to be bad at their job and not good at it. Because so much of the industry experience and everything is structured in a way that it's a guaranteed success for people who are just simply, you know, who just do what they're told. Well, what? No, I'm serious. Like, I would rather take a person who's had proven success, like, and you see this all the time. Like, if you listen to people like talk about finance or business, would they rather take somebody who has a degree from a, you know, a prestigious university, or would they rather take somebody who's built their own small business and has been doing it ever since they're 13? And you ask a lot of these business owners, and they're going to take the guy that's been building his own business, right? It's because winners are the ones that don't need to be told when to start or how to start. They just simply do it. They just do it. Like, there's no, you shouldn't have to tell somebody that. They shouldn't, like, that's just how it is. It's like,
I totally think it's brilliant. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did enjoy the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter. I'll be live today if today is Friday. If you're watching this not on Friday, then
what is I think today's like Friday. What is Thursday?
Anyway, stay cool, stay righteous, stay safe. I'll catch you guys.
I don't know what today is.
Peace.
If you're learning from experience, you don't have experience from learning. Sometimes, right? Yeah, this is a great video. Like, I mean, Megabonk, I think, is a good example of like a lot of these devs and people like this. That, you know, it's, again, you just get in there and you make the game. You just go in there and you do it. All of these barriers and gatekeepers and everything like that, do you want to know why they really exist? They exist for the people that are already in the industry to allow themselves to be the kingmakers of the industry. You don't need to do any of that. You don't need to do any of this shit. It's completely made up by people that are stupid. And if you're smart, if you're talented, if you know what you're doing, you will succeed. It doesn't matter if you follow the pre-approved rule set. It doesn't matter if you do the right things or you have the right opinions. None of this shit matters. Winners win and losers lose. That is a principle that I have with everything. And if I give somebody a task that's a winner, they will succeed at the task. If I give somebody a task that's a loser, they will fail at the task. It doesn't matter what the task is. Now, there might be a spectrum, obviously, of this, but the way that people approach things that are winners is totally different than losers.